Learning has always been about capturing and sharing knowledge, but globalization and internationalization, rapid technological advances, and the rise of social media as a communication tool have led to an e-learning explosion in the last decade. The problem for higher educational institutions is they are now educating digital natives who were practically born with a computer. Student needs and expectations and learning styles have changed, and they're no longer content to read a textbook from cover to cover and watch what they call boring PowerPoint presentations. So who am I and why this topic? I'm a part-time lecturer and student at the Hague University of Applied Sciences, and I have extensive experience with both traditional face-to-face teaching and learning and e-learning as well on both sides. I've seen a lot of challenges with the target market of this research, which is the educators and students, and yet I've seen minimal explicit links between e-learning and the all-important study success. So that's what I aimed to find with this research. I wanted to help people better understand and take advantage of these trends, which are being mandated by policy at national level and institutional level. Educators are being told they need to do e-learning, and not a lot are quite sure how. The other objectives that I had were to give a compact but thorough overview of the topic, explore them in practice, and get some practical recommendations for educators at the Hague University. So the Research Navigator and the Thesis went into extreme depth, as I'm sure you've seen, and everything was guided by central research questions and sub-questions. I'll just highlight a few small things here, and then obviously you can ask me as many questions as you like after the short presentation. The research design and strategies I chose were specifically chosen to answer the research questions, and I used observation, surveys, and interviews. Using 3 different methods was quite time consuming, but also made it very robust and credible, and there were a number of quality concerns and multiple measures I took to address this. So answering the first 2 research questions about the most relevant elements, I undertook a literature review and started with the all-important definition. I came up with working definitions. I also put a glossary in there because there's a lot of terms that are used interchangeably, and that makes it quite confusing when you're trying to understand the topic. So I've aimed to make that clear. I will also state that e-learning is often referred to as online learning and digital learning, and study success can be referred to by terms such as quality and achievement. One of the most valuable parts of this research was to come up with a conceptual model. So back when I said one of the objectives was to give busy educators and students a very quick overview but make it robust, these 7 elements of e-learning and these 7 elements of study success together give a really deep understanding of the topic by even just briefly considering each one of them. And then I've aimed to link both of them, and in the thesis I explained each of them in depth. To take it one step further, I also aimed to verify the concept model. So I used a blank one, and in my surveys and also in the interviews, I asked people to fill out what they thought were the most important elements. They weren't always the exact words, but it made the original model a lot more useful to know that it did cover basically everything that was used. There was a lot of levels of subjectivity, so I included all of my data sets, but the most significant finding is that all of the elements I came up with were also mentioned by all of the 28 educators and 29 students that I surveyed, as well as all of the educators that I interviewed, and backed up again by my observations. Then I went further to look at further at the definitions and the operationalization. So I've already talked about the importance of a definition, and when asking people to define it in their own words, both e-learning and study success, everybody has a slightly different version. But the definitions I came up with in the literature review held true. They were quite deliberately quite broad and useful. I did a thematic analysis on both the interviews and the observation, and I came up with terms that are used at the Hague University of Applied Sciences where I did the field work. So as an internal researcher, I had access to a lot of valuable data. And these are the terms used by the educators and the students themselves when they're talking about operationalizing e-learning and study success. And again, I describe each of them and examples in the thesis. Measuring and communicating was also important to look at in the fieldwork, but building on such a shaky ground, as I've said, everybody defines it differently and operationalizes it differently. So when deciding on what to measure, it depends in which situation you're going to be measuring it. But in terms of this research, it's possible, but it depends on the definition and why things are being measured. With the communication, you can see that both the educators and the students surveyed very strongly believe, so there's a lot of no's there, they don't think that the Hague University is communicating regularly and clearly, but that's no real surprise because in the observation you'll see that there are multiple channels of official and unofficial communication going on. So whether we're talking e-learning, study success or any other topic, it's hard for these to stand out in so much communication going on. And what I feel is the most important sub-question here, is there a relationship? Now, it's difficult to prove this within beyond a doubt in the research, but this is very significant to see that in all of those surveyed, only one person felt that e-learning was not important to study success. So of the educators and students, the vast majority felt that it was either crucial, important, or possibly important. So that brings us to trying to establish an even clearer relationship between e-learning and study success. And in the context of the Hague University, this is a place that offers face-to-face learning. There are no purely e-learning options. So my conclusion and one of the main overall recommendations is that e-learning is an important option in the communication of knowledge. And when you combine that with the face-to-face learning, it adds an extra cog to leading towards study success. There is still a place for face-to-face. It actually surprised me how much fear there seems to be that e-learning will replace real people. But as the conceptual model showed, the educator and students are still a really important part of this process. We might have Google, but we still need an education. And the answer, I feel, is in blended learning, and that was backed up by all three methods of research and data collection, as well as in the analysing of the data. However, the e-learning element really needs to increase at the Hague University because blended is about face-to-face and e-learning. And the Hague University are not only seen as identified by a member of the board, educators and students as lagging behind. So this leads to a more definite answer of the central research question: how can e-learning enhance study success? And if anyone is still in doubt, I came up with 5 specific ways that e-learning can enhance study success. Being firstly flexibility. E-learning can offer more choice of pace and place. Engagement. E-learning can really offer interaction and fun. Employability, because by using more technology, teaching and practicing 21st century skills, which is what employers want. Internationalization, we have something like 132 different nationalities here that can't always physically be together. So we're developing global connected citizens, and it's only natural that the e-learning and learning online should be a part of that. And communication is the 5th, because communication seems to be a challenge, internal communication, and there's a blur between learning and communicating. So e-learning, by gathering these communities together, the learning and the communicating can overlap and enhance each other. I also offer 7 specific recommendations, and it really depends on which educators you're talking to, but I made them broad enough to be useful to right to board level, or to program director level, or faculty level, or right down to individual lecturer level. So any of those educators could read through these recommendations and basically mix and match them. Of course, you could use all 7 or 1 or 2 or 3, any of them based on months of research now and robust data can make a few changes. And to take it one final step further, I've helped busy educators with an implementation framework. So by defining, understanding, operationalizing, communicating, and measuring any changes they decide to make towards e-learning, I give some suggestions, then this will make it easier for them. So to round up with practical applicability, I've aimed to give a quick but robust overview with likely links between the two constructs, a snapshot of what it looks like at The Hague University, really a shift in focus to blended learning, but e-learning must be a part of that. I've given recommendations and places to start, and it's not just applicable to The Hague University, it's also other universities in the Netherlands and overseas would find this interesting and useful, I believe. There are limitations. It's a very broad and complex topic which I've tackled in limited time. E-learning is not a magic solution to all of education's problems, but it can help a lot. So some further perspective and further research. It's a relevant and hot topic globally, and I think I've shown some new links between e-learning and study success. I think The Hague University and any other location needs to look into financing and funding. There's a new network curriculum and a specific research project that I may be involved with there. I've tried to remain very critical as a researcher and focus on quality. And what's next? This isn't the end. I don't want this shoved on a shelf. I've made connections with other institutions. I've been asked to be a blended learning expert after the summer on the new network curriculum here at The Hague University. I'd like to submit journal articles and conference papers and continue a career in this field. So I look forward to your questions, your feedback and your input in a critical debate to make this even more valuable.